hundreds of schools across the country have had to close buildings over dodgy concrete that's left them in danger of collapse. It's become a full-blown crisis for the government and an early Christmas present for fans of lazy metaphors. Critics say this government's crumbling before our eyes. The walls are falling in after 13 years of Tory rule. They failed to fix the roof while the sun was shining. We don't yet know why it took so long for the government to act. We don't yet know how long it will take to fix it. We don't yet know how much that will cost. But what we do know is that absolutely nobody is to blame. Here's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak accused of cutting school budgets when he was Chancellor.
Are you to blame for what's happening now? Do you want to apologise to parents and pupils?
No, I think that is completely and utterly wrong.
Not me, Gov, says the Prime Minister. Gillian Keegan, Secretary of State for Education, first said it was, quote, not her responsibility, before blowing up in this hot mic tirade.
But you're saying that the government is not responsible, ultimately, for the safety of children in schools?
The school building's responsibility is with local authorities and multi-academy trusts.
Does anyone ever say, you know what, you've done a good job because everyone else has sat on their and done nothing? No signs of that, no?
Everybody else was sat on their arses, says the Education Chief, who was sat on her arse on holiday in Spain when the school closures were ordered. Well, today her department triumphantly tweeted, most schools unaffected. Well, that's great news. At least we know the line after the election. 40% of Tories lose their seats, most unaffected. This crisis has exposed a phobia that's gripping politicians around the world. It's the fear of taking responsibility or saying sorry for anything. President Biden said it was, quote, not his responsibility when classified documents were found piled in his garage next to his beloved Corvette. Asked if he'd take responsibility if the Taliban retook Afghanistan, Biden said this.
Don't you bear some responsibility for the outcome if the Taliban ends up back in control and women end up losing the rights?
No, I don't. Look, do I bear responsibility? Zero responsibility.
And yet it was entirely your responsibility, Mr. President. Everybody knows what happened over in Afghanistan, the tragic consequences, not least for millions of Afghan women now being suppressed once again by the Taliban wolves. Boris Johnson infamously bore no responsibility for literally anything, including an investigation that found he'd lied to Parliament about COVID lockdown parties and launched a campaign of abuse against his critics. It was all a terrible witch hunt, he said. Donald Trump's the godfather of taking no responsibility, a former president who'd apparently rather go to jail than admit he lost an election. And a year ago today, Liz Truss became Prime Minister for a disastrous and historically awful 44 days. Her friend and Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng broke Britain with a mini budget that tanked the pound, crashed the markets, blew up mortgages for millions of people. Well, who bears that responsibility? Who's sorry? It's pretty clear that most people are now still paying the price. But apologies, there have been none. Trust in politics is at an all-time low because so few politicians just want to throw their hands up and go, it's on me, Gov, and I'm sorry. Every leader blames the guy who messed it up before them and the one who made it worse afterwards. Look, it's hard to admit you're wrong. Apparently, I've been told that. But if politicians want to rebuild trust, it starts with admitting they broke it in the first place and occasionally just saying, I'm sorry, it was me.